Welcome you all to the Decade of GSoc, celebration of the 10th year of School Summer of Code. Being the world's #1 institute of participation, University of Moratuwa is indeed proud to host today's event, marking yet another milestone in its GSoc saga. Decade of GSoc is being graced by the Vice Chancellor of University of Moratuwa, Professor Jawardena, distinguished invitees from Google, renowned personalities of Sri Lankan IT industry, and young developers. Let's move on to light the traditional oil lamp to start the day's proceeding. I would like to invite, representing the University of Moratuwa, our Vice Chancellor, Chief Guest Professor Jawardena, representing the GSoc team, Director of Social Impact and Open Source at Google, Mr. Chris Bibona, Program Manager at Google, Ms. Mary Regaman, Program Manager at Google, Ms. Stephanie Taylor, representing Google, Sri Lanka Country Consultant, Mr. Rohan Jayavira, representing Open Source Community in Sri Lanka, Dr. Sanjeev Virwar, Founder and the CEO of GSoc, representing Slascom, Vice Chairman, Mr. Manav Sekaran, representing Computer Science and Engineering Society, Chairman Mr. Hasit Yagnavantan, representing Ministry of Higher Education, Deputy Project Director, Ms. Vishaka Nanayakkara, as well as I would like to invite one of the participants of the event to light the friendship bonds. Gentlemen, as a nation, we have excelled at Google Summer of Code. So let's rise for the national anthem.
Aki warm welcome to this glorious and glamorous occasion. The bond the University of Moratuwa and Sri Lanka as a whole has with the Google Summer of Code is inseparable. And we always pride ourselves in the fact of being the top university in the entire world that has produced the most number of GSoc winners for the past 7 years. 7 consecutive years, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are today celebrating success, celebrating the 10th anniversary of Google Summer of Code. So, at this very special evening, we are very honored to have our Vice Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa, Professor Ananta, gracing this occasion as the chief guest. We very warmly welcome you to today's event, sir. And we have very important persons who have flown down to Sri Lanka especially to attend the Decade of GSoc event. Christy Bona, the Director of Social Impact and Open Source at Google, Stephanie Taylor, and Mayor Radiman, Program Managers at Google. And I felt that this is your first visit to Sri Lanka. And so welcome to the Decade of GSoc, welcome to the University of Moratuwa, and a warm welcome to Sri Lanka, the Paradise Island. I hope you get to enjoy the wonderful hospitality of the warm-hearted, smiling people here. Welcome to you all, wonderful ladies and gentlemen. And we would like to welcome the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Professor U.G. Ebuswelada, and the Dean of Faculty of IT, Mr. D.K. Vidanage. And we would like to warmly welcome the Head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Dr. Chandana Gamage, and all the lecturers from the Faculty of IT and the Faculty of Engineering. And Dr. Sanjeeva Veerapada, who has been a pioneer in the development of free and open source software in Sri Lanka, will be arriving here lately, and we are very pleased to have his presence here today with us as well. And a warm welcome to you, Madam Overall, Mrs. Vishaka Nanayankara. We are very pleased to have you here today. And we warmly welcome the President and the representatives of the Computer Science and Engineering Society. Your presence here today is a great source of encouragement to all of us. And we would like to welcome the representatives from the leading IT companies in Sri Lanka. You are warmly welcome, sirs and madams. And we have representatives from the Google Developer Group, Google Business Group, Google Mapmaker Communities, and my fellow Google student ambassadors. You are always warmly welcome. And most importantly, the past GSocers and the mentors who took our country to great heights with their invaluable cooperation to the free and open source software development. You made this all possible, and we are all very proud of you. This is your day, this is your evening, and this is the celebration of your success. So we warmly welcome you all, and please make yourselves at home. And don't forget to give a dose of encouragement to the young students who are aspiring to be part of Google's Coder Summer. And we have Dr. Sanjeeva Veerapada arriving. We welcome you warmly to the event, sir. And we all a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Your presence here today means a lot to us. We hope you enjoy this evening as much as we did putting things together to make this day possible. So, let's celebrate the success of Google Summer of Code. Have a wonderful evening. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vasini. We are honored and privileged to have our Vice Chancellor, Professor Ananta, as the chief guest of today's event, who is instrumental in guiding the University of Moratuwa to achieve great heights and international ratings. Dear sir, this invitation goes to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chris Debona, Ms. Mary Mangaman, and Stephen Taylor from Google US, and also Sri Lankan representative of Google, Mr. Lohan Javida, Dean Faculty of Engineering, Professor Ananta Kuswevada, Head of the Department, Dr. Chandana Gamage, Dr. Sanjeeva invitees from the industry, past Google Summer of Report, all experts who are here, GSoc at that school, and dear students. In fact, I'm very happy and proud to be here at the inauguration of the 10th or what is called the decade of GSoc. And it was mentioned at the welcome address that University of Moratuwa and Google are inseparable. I think it is very true. Google is in fact a culture of the University of Moratuwa as well, especially the Department of Computer Science and Engineering and IT faculties, and also anybody and everybody who consider Google name is everywhere. Because Google is not just only GSoc, but it is an internet-related service provider, world-renowned, everyone knows it, and it is a household name, and which provides services and products including search, cloud computing, software, and online advertising and all of them. So let me extend a very warm welcome to the Google team to Sri Lanka, as it was mentioned that your first visit to Sri Lanka and you have many new experiences. Already you have experienced many new things in the University of Moratuwa as well. Let me extend my warm congratulations to our own people, own students who actually brought honor and glory to Sri Lanka by winning Google Summer of Codes competitions since 2005 to 2013 and becoming #1 in the world every year continuously since 2007. And that is obviously very clearly that it's not a small task. I know that it needs a real dedication, hard work, commitment to become #1 in the world. I know that the team from Google, they were saying that Sri Lanka is of course special to the Google. And this entire thing is because of the commitment of our own staff members at Moratuwa University and all of you, all wonderful students, and also the visionary kind of advice given by one single person, Dr. Sanjuri Rana from the industry. Sanjuri, thank you so much for you're there. You're also inseparable, I think, from the Google Summer of Codes as well. We are very pleased to support this and declare open this competition, which actually is a beginning to another contest. And I know today we have not only University of Moratuwa staff members and the teams, but there are other members coming from other universities as well. I would like to extend my welcome to you as well, and you will be part of the teams completing Moratuwa, with Moratuwa, and also representing Sri Lanka, and our strength is Sri Lanka, not only Moratuwa certainly, and that is the bigger picture that we would like to project. Moratuwa University, obviously, people who are here know, but I would like to tell a little bit for Google Summer of Codes delegates who are here, is Moratuwa University has earned an excellent brand reputation in Sri Lanka and also now in the world as well, among Google as well. And why we say that is Moratuwa University is #1 in many aspects. One aspect obviously you know, which is Google Summer of Codes. University is the one which is highly sought after by the advanced level students, and we have statistics to say that over 95% of the top 10% performers of the math stream request Moratuwa as first choice for their engineering education. And our students are very highly sought after by the industry, and computer science graduates are, of course, employed before they pass out from the University of Moratuwa. And of course, the industry is waiting and rewarding and trying to grab the best ones right in the beginning. Of course, everybody is grabbed before they pass out from the university. Highly sought after by the industry as well. And they are good performers, not only in the industry for the jobs that they are entitled or they take, but also for higher studies as well. And our graduates get the placement for the world's best universities for their post-study studies. And this year civil engineering department in the last 5 years we select students who came ready for higher studies. So if you consider world's best universities, our students not only get placements, but many universities are there, which in fact request Moratuwa University to send students for postgraduate studies as well. We have been champions in Google, but in addition to that, there are lots of other competitions that we have got gold titles. If you consider IEEE programming competition, which is organized by the IEEE in the UK, world competition, we have become #1 in the world in 2009, runners-up in 2010, and currently we are actually securing many places, events year, and many places within the top 10, top 50, top 100 and all that kind of thing. And very recently, we actually got the first 5 teams in the world in the electric vehicle super micro mobile design concept, which is outside of normal programming, but in other aspects of engineering and designing as well. And there were 5 teams in the world right at the top. And out of the 5 teams, 4 from Japan, only 1 outside Japan, and that was Sri Lanka University. And in the IT faculty, we also got a first place in the Windows Phone competition organized by Nokia very recently. I think Dr. Lotan knows about all the details. And these are all computer programming as well as outside programming, but by the Moratuwa University students. And certainly, those are the capabilities of the students we have. Even the staff members are extremely capable. As you know, we have a whole spectrum of academic staff members qualified world over. And recently, one of the staff members of the computer science engineering department, Professor Giham Dias, was identified as one of the 31 people in the whole of internet, and as a person who contributed for the internet connectivity as one of the 31 people in the world in the whole field. So that indicates that Moratuwa is clearly #1. And our target is certainly not to be #1 in Sri Lanka, but we want to be a very highly reputed world-class university, not only just considering the graduates that we produce, but we would like to be a world-class university, rising in our international rankings, in our research profiles, and in many other ways that we would like to have. Let me also extend my warm greetings and also appreciations to all the mentors who have provided the mentoring service to our computer science and engineering department staff students, as well as other students in the other faculties who participated in the GSoc and also who will be participating in the future as well, starting Dr. Sanjeev Ratnam and all the others in the industry who promote this open source competitions and open source software in the world as well. And in addition to that, our own people who really won this competition earlier, who has actually created or who were the trendsetters of this entire competition every time that we performing better and better. If you just see the statistics from 2007 to 2013, 2007 we got 21 places, so 21 winners, and 2008, 24 and so on, 22, 27, 27, 29, and last year, 2013, we got 39 awards, and that is the highest number of awards that we have got. So that clearly indicates that we are up on the scale and rising in our performance. Let me again congratulate all the players in the computer science and engineering department, the mentors and the promoters, and also Google, who probably recognize the University of Moratuwa and Sri Lanka as very special places. We have had a very productive meeting just before we started this as well, to see how Google and Moratuwa University can further collaborate. And of course, we thought, in addition to these kind of competitions, how do we have a partnership so that we Computer Science and Engineering Department, supported by Microsoft, Lanka Software Foundation, and Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Department, 3 labs in the dialogue, mobile telecommunication, Zone 24/7, which is again an American-based company supporting electronics technologies, and recently established Premium International for biomedical engineering. So similarly, other departments like chemical and process engineering, Samson Industries, rubber technologies, and also Kabi's for food technologies and so on, mechanical, Atlas, and so on. Several labs we have established. So likewise, we want to promote research and development in this area of open source software. And in that context, I think we have decided to partner and obtain funding from Google to carry out research at University of Moratuwa. So I hope that the department certainly will make use of these opportunities in the future so that we will have a better and more close collaborations. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let me wish all of you all the very best for starting from the decade of GSoc, and now this is actually the 10th year that we are going to step in, and the 10th year will certainly be a landmark and a milestone, and I'm sure University of Moratuwa will keep its flag flying higher than ever, and certainly our students, with the support of our industry, the mentors, and all the staff members at the department, I'm sure University of Moratuwa teams will certainly perform even better than the other years, and we will be able to reach to much greater heights. So let me extend all my best wishes to all of you, and also extend my appreciations to all the mentors from Sanyo Veervanan. I think your support will be very valuable as well, and certainly extend my appreciations to Google, all the delegates who are here, and your visit, especially to Sri Lanka, all the way, is really a great encouragement, and I'm sure that itself will be added energetic kind of a contribution to all our students, which will certainly motivate them to perform even better than last year as well. Thank you so much for coming to Sri Lanka and especially University of Moratuwa as well. So let me end my speech once again, wishing all the very best for University of Moratuwa teams to progress in the 10th competition of Google Summer Course. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Professor Jawad, for your inspiring words. Since its inception in 2005, a staggering number of 265 students and 122 mentors have represented Sri Lanka in Google Summer of Code. To enlighten the audience about the journey so far, let me introduce our very special person. He is the Director of Open Source and Social Impact at Google. His team oversees license complaints and support the open source developer community through programs such as Google Summer of Code and through the release of open source software products and patches. In the public sector space, he looks after Google Moderator and Google Elections. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Chris DeBona, Director of Social Impact and Open Source at Google.
So I can't thank you enough for so many things. So I'd actually like to take a step back before I start thanking you excessively. First of all, would you raise your hand if you have taken part in the summer as a student? You have no idea how happy to. Now keep your hand up if you're a mentor for the summer program. Great. Thank you so much for coming. I give speeches in all kinds of places all over the world, and every once in a while, and actually all the time, there's that one T-shirt. It's a summer photo, or the two, and it's just like it always just makes me so happy to see it. And here's a place where it's most of the audience, and that comes to the point of why I really wanted to be here that this university in this country was at the top of those lists. And I was like, and I had just taken on about 60 new engineers. But at the same time, I was like, well, I have to do some of these. Not just because I want to, but because I have to. Right? But I really want to do Sri Lanka. It's been this jewel in the bouquet of jewels that is the Summer of Code. You had mentioned the total being 200 plus students that have come from here. And that's an astonishing number. And it would be an astonishing number if we were talking about India or China or the United States. But we're talking about Sri Lanka, a country that has 20 million people and has been punching well its weight against countries 10 times your size, with hundreds more universities. And that's an amazing thing. And that's not to say you're amazing because you're punching above your weight. It's just period amazing. How many of you of the mentors have come to the Mentor Summit? Just raise your hand. Good, so I'm just going to bore you to what I'm about to say. So I'm sorry about that. The Summer of Code is not a program that's random. It isn't a lottery. It's not a gamble. It's not a perfect attendance award. You didn't become part of the Summer of Code because you showed up. You became part of the Summer of Code and you excelled in the Summer of Code. You were awarded the money and the certificates and the t-shirts. Not because you decided to ally yourself with Google or with an open source project. You became part of the Summer of Code and you won the Summer of Code because you deserved it, because you worked at it, because you created software that was open source as part of these projects. And released it. You earned it. It is a merit-based program. It is not just some thing we do because we want to appear generous or beneficial. And it's something we're very, very proud of because of that. The Summer of Code only works because students work very, very hard, often in the middle of finals like sorry about that. I'm sure your schoolwork didn't suffer. Summer Code that works because you work so hard and the mentors work so hard to make your software great. And it's an astonishing thing because of that. So, before I continue with my thank yous and tell you how wonderful you are, and I'll get back to that, the nerd in me, the geek, the science fiction fan in me, I have to tell you, the first time I heard the word Columbo and Sri Lanka were at the end of the author's notes in Arthur C. Clarke novels. Is that completely unusual? How many of you know about that? Just raise your hand if you read those books too. Okay, so I'm totally not embarrassed, thank you. And I was like, Sri Lanka, it sounds like this magical place. I mean, so many of these greats of science fiction seem to reference it. And then, when I came to Google and we started the Summer of Code, for it to pop up, I'm like, the home of Arthur C. Clarke wants to be in the Summer of Code. That's amazing, And we have a gentleman on our staff, named Jeremy Allison, who works on the Samba project. And he and I we totally bond over science fiction things. So when I was like, Sri Lanka? He said, well, sure. 2001, 2010, back to the book. And I'm like, did you write the Summer Code? Like, great. He's like, really? I've never expected that. Like, yeah, me either. Isn't that great, And so, we were able to go from childhood's end and satellites and obviously Clarke to our work. And I was like, yeah, it's fantastic, So I had to share that. I'm sorry. But the origin of things is important, right? So when I was first, it was maybe my third week at Google, and I was in a meeting with our founders, Delegates, and our CEO at the time, and some other people. And it was myself and Greg Stein. We had put together the compliance website for our open source. So my job is license compliance, and we will go into extensive detail about open source later on. But my job is open source compliance, along with outreach and infrastructure for open source projects. And the compliance mission needs a website to discuss it, to put the code out, and all the rest. So we wrote code.google.com, and to launch a website to Google, you had to talk to someone in charge, basically. You can't just launch like Chris Lamona at Google.com. You have to launch something that matters. And so they had this meeting back then, back in 2004, to confirm that that was the right thing for the company. So we went in, Sergey had just gotten in from bicycling, so he was wearing his bicycling outfit, and he was stretching. And Larry was messing with his phone. And they're like, oh, Chris, welcome to Google. What are we launching this week? And I said, oh, it's Google.com, it's the site for compliance. And I was like, sounds good, launch that. Now, and I'm like, oh, that was easy. And then Larry says, but I need you to do me a favor. And Larry Page wants a favor from me, of course. No, what can I do for you? I never heard of it. And he goes, well, too many computer scientists over the summer are not doing computer science. And I think they backslide a little bit. So, you know, the classes and there's a big break, and I think it's bad for them. So if you could fix that, that would be great. Okay, sounds good. Like, what? And he goes, great, so come back in 2 weeks and tell me the plan. And I'm like, okay, so I leave and I look at Greg and I'm like, we're open source people. Let's make them do open source. Sounds good. So Greg contacted his friends at Apache, and I contacted a bunch of other people, literally by instant messenger. I was like, so Miguel, if I gave you some students, what would you do to them? And he's like, would I have to let them? And I'm like, it's like, Miguel, no. But you have to treat them well. You have to help them learn how to code and release code and be open source. He's like, no, that's a good idea. We should do that. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So I went back to this meeting 2 weeks later and I said, okay, what became known as the Summer of Code. I came up with a cool name immediately, by the way. I was like, Summer of Code, make me the Summer of Code, that's great. And someone in the press, when we launched this, called this a child labor program. So that was awesome. I was like, really? You're gonna? That's great. I can imagine what that reporter thinks of the Google Code project, which is very nice. But and then they're like, so because there's this concept of the Summer of Love in the United States, which was in the 60s, and a free speech movement, and everyone had flowers and loved each other. And they're like, so Google takes love and turns it into code. And I'm like, really? Is that how you're going to talk about what I do? But anyway, so we came to Summer of Code. We go to the meeting, and I tell Larry and Sergey and Eric about it. And Larry's like, well, this is okay. Because I structured that first year for 200 students. He's like, it's okay, but I'm really happy writing in 1,000 students. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm like, I said, Larry, I can't. I'm just one guy. He's like, we'll go hire people. I'm like, okay, I'll go hire people. He's like, good, see if you can give me double that. I'm like, okay. So I left, we launched the Summer of Code, we got some 6,000 applications, including a number from Sri Lanka. We weren't number one yet. It would take a year and a half for that to happen, which is ridiculously fast. I ran into Al Eustace, who's now my boss's boss, and this was back in 2004, 2005. And I said, hey, Alan, we have so many applications, I'd love to have twice as many students, I've got 400 students. And he was making coffee, you know, at the machine. And he said, sure, sounds good. I'm like, this is too easy. And so we did 400 students the next year, we did 600, we did 800, then we did 1,000, we did 1,200, and then went down to 1,000, back to 1,200. And at that point, Sri Lanka dominated. And you guys have figured it out. And every year, we would look at the results and be like, where's Sri Lanka? Wow, it's amazing. It's like, is that what is it about this place? And they totally hacked the system somehow. And you know, let's make sure this is legit. It's legit. Oh my gosh, they're so great. You know, and Australia is what? And they're making America look kind of pathetic. And it's like, what's going on at this university? And I've always wanted to come here and find out. So you were talking about the 10th anniversary, and I was like, well, I want to Sri Lanka. They're like, well, do you want to go to Europe? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to go to Sri Lanka. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, you guys can go to Bob's and do that stuff. I'm going to go to Sri Lanka. And I'm so glad I did. So, I don't know why you're clapping for me. I mean, once you did all the work, I mean, you have to realize the job that it's not me doing it, it's them. It's Mary, it's Stephanie, it's Kat, it's Carol doing all the work. I don't do anything anymore. I give bonuses, I'm like, good job. What's our code? And then I go and I hammer and I try to charm my homes. So you should be thanking them. Maybe we'll get a chance to. So thank me right now, but we can thank them in a minute. What else did I want to say? There wasn't that much else besides that, except to say how exciting it is to meet all of you. And I got a chance to go over to GSoc yesterday and meet so many of our summer students who come out of this university and enjoy that company. And it's so invigorating to see open source become a part of the culture of computer science. And that's sort of, I guess, how I like to wrap it up. I like to talk about computer science and what open source means for computer science. University systems are fantastic at teaching algorithms. They're fantastic at teaching formal methods and data structures and software programming languages and pilots and operating systems. But there's this problem. When you take a university education and you meet a user who looks at computers as a tool, not as a beautiful collection of algorithms, or they want to play Candy Crush or Kingdom Rush, or whatever is the most popular game here. Is Angry Birds big here? And they don't understand that there are bugs that users create that are so vexing sometimes. And we have jokes in the computer industry about, computer science would be so good if there weren't any users. If we didn't have to worry about users, it'd be so much better because look what they do with our computers. They want them to do unnatural things. And so, as open source grew in prominence along with the internet, all these problems that were real for our users, for the people who really make our jobs possible, in open source, you have a person who would take your software you had written for a Unix machine on an x86 processor, and then they want to run it on some ancient tech multi with a completely different memory orientation, and they want to run it on a fax. Like this recent thing with OpenBSD, one of the machines they keep running is a fax machine. Really? A fax from 1984? But the thing is, users are going to want to run software all over the place. And in open source, you have these bugs. It's like, well, I found out that if you try to run this thing on a Tech Multia from 1982, you're going to have this error. And that error is actually more important for the mainstream user than we would ever imagine, because they're going to hit an error because of the nature of their architecture that we won't see on a more modern machine. But the error is still there. And maybe it's in the presence of a security flaw. Maybe it's representative of something that will only happen under certain loads. This is something we see at Google all the time, where a package that will see a failure 1 in 3 million instantiations, we'll see it once a minute, right? Because it's attached to search something. And so, through open source, computer science becomes user. It becomes the user's utility, it becomes the user's application, the user's world. And so, the Summer of Code brings that one precious thing to the university setting. The university of a hard time getting to, and that's real user problem. So we understand when our computer science gets abused by our user population. And so, in that, the Summer of Code and open source become this icing on the cake of computer science education. And it makes computer science better. It becomes the foundation of computer science. And it's independent if your country has 5 people or if it has 20 million or if it has 1 billion. calculation of Google a couple of years back, where we counted the amount of open source software that are out there for people to use and leverage. And it amounted to, I believe, 30,000 developers working for 10 years. So call it 300,000 man-years, woman-years of the program. So that's what we've done. This is what we've all done in this room. We've made that software possible. We've made those shoulders greater. They're like mountains now that we can all stand upon. And from there, we can make users happy, but we can make ourselves happy, and we can make computer science better. So I think that I've used up my time, and I don't want to go too far. We have a panel later, and we're going to take questions, right? So please ask any question you like. I prefer softballs. Chris, why are you so great? You shouldn't do that. That's just a comparison. Barrier. Again, I want to say, Sri Lanka, University of Moratuwa, I'm probably mispronouncing it all the time, but it's just this amazing shining tool, not just in summer code, not just in open source, but in computer science, and you should be so proud and deservedly so. And it's not coming from me, it's coming from the world. So, thank you, and I really appreciate it. And these flowers, you have no idea, they're awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Dimona, for that inspiring speech. And indeed, we are lucky to have someone like you with us today. GSoc 2014 is a special year for all of us, as it marks the 10th year of success of Google Summer of Code. To introduce our GSoc 2014 to this audience, I would like to invite Ms. Mary Rodriguez, Program Manager at Google, and Ms. Stephanie Taylor, Program Manager at Google. The stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Taylor, and I'm so honored to be here tonight to recognize all the students here at the University of Moratuwa and all the students in the country of Sri Lanka that have participated in Google Summer Code these past 9 years. Amazing job, guys. Congratulations. And I also want to go ahead and give a huge thanks to Rohan, our Googler here in Sri Lanka, our Google student ambassadors, and all the faculty and staff here at the University of Moratuwa. You all have all done an amazing job. Thank you so much. We couldn't have done this event without you. Thank you. Since Chris talked about the history of Google Summer Code, I wanted to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about the specifics. How many people in the audience are interested in applying for this year's Google Summer Code? Nice. Okay, wow. Okay, great. So this is kind of for you guys. So again, Google Summer Code, basically for a 3-month period during the summer, students write code for an open source project, and they'll earn a stipend. And as Chris mentioned, Larry Page reached out to him back in 2005 and wanted to come up with a way for students to continue coding during their summer breaks. So to keep their skills sharp and to not be working on a job that's unrelated to their career path, and to be able to actually continue to code during the summer. Hence the slogan, flip bits, not burgers. And another goal of Google Summer Code was to inspire young developers to get involved in open source software. We hear all the time that students, before Google Summer Code, they hadn't really participated in open source development, and sometimes they didn't even know anything about it at all before researching Google Summer Code. So we were really wanting to reach out and get students involved in open source, and hopefully have them become contributors for the rest of their lives. And the final goal is to get students real-life exposure to software projects, so they can actually take those skills they've been learning in the classroom and use them for a real project, and learn distributed development, IRC, mailing lists, how to work with people from all different countries and time zones. the program. And Google's going to review all of these applications, and this year we're going to choose 190 organizations. That's 10 more than we've ever had before, and we're very excited about that. And then after we've chosen organizations, interested students should go to our program site and look at the ideas pages of these organizations. The organizations basically will list things that they would like to see students work on during the summer. But you don't have to do one of those ideas. If you have an idea that you think this open source project could use, some kind of project that would make their software better, propose it. I mean, they are always open to new ideas. But a key part of this is to be on the IRC channel, to be on the mailing list. Get on there and get involved early. Don't just kind of read about the project, submit your proposal, and hope that they accept you. Really getting involved in the IRC channels and getting involved in the community early on is hugely beneficial to you. So it's a huge tip for you right there. And then you will submit your project proposals. Students can submit up to 5 project proposals, but we highly, highly, highly recommend you only submit 1 or 2 quality proposals. It's all about quality, not quantity. So to be able to do the research on projects and to really put the effort into it, usually 1 or 2 quality proposals is the limit for most students. Maybe 3 on a rare occasion, but really focus on 1 or 2 organizations. And then we will give each organization a certain number of slots, so a certain number of students they'll have for the summer. And organizations will choose the students that have the projects that they want them to work on for the summer, and they'll pair a mentor with each of those projects. And then basically after the students are announced, there's a 1-month bonding period. Now again, this is key. This is your time to get involved in the community, to research the code base, to read up on documentation, to understand how the community works, to understand the project itself. So this is kind of basically doing your homework. This is really kind of getting ready so that when you start coding at the end of May, you can jump right in on your project and aren't having to go back and figure out, what version control system they use or things like that. And then, of course, during the program, you do have to meet certain milestones that your mentors will set out for you. That's, of course, usually laid out at the very, very beginning of the program. And some mentors are going to ask you to meet milestones each week. Others are going to be, more like 2 weeks. But you're constantly going to be in contact with your mentor. You're probably going to be talking to them, or actually, to be on IRC or on a mailing list with them at least 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes you maybe every day, especially at the beginning, and you're trying to figure out exactly where to go with your project. And the program, of course, is entirely online, so you can be doing this on your sofa, or you can be doing it from your coffee house, whatever. But one of the things that was interesting when we had our meeting earlier with the University of Moratuwa faculty was that I didn't realize was that all of you actually are in session, or in school session from April till September, which is when the program runs. So that makes it even more amazing that you've all been able to participate in the program for these past 9 years, because you're doing the full workload and doing this program, which is unbelievable. So again, kudos to all of you, because that makes your achievement even more amazing than we thought it was before. We really thought it was amazing then. So again, it's about a 40-hour-a-week commitment, more or less. Some weeks it might be less, some weeks it might be more. But if you're planning on doing a month-long trip to Australia, probably not the right program for you. All right, let's talk about the money. So this year, as part of our 10th year celebration, we're going to raise the stipend by 10%. So it's going to be $5,500 if you successfully complete the program. And the mentoring organizations also get $500 for each student that they have. And so after the bonding period is concluded, if the student, obviously shows that they're committed to the project, they've been communicating with the organization, so they'll be considered in good standing, and they'll receive their $500 US. And then there'll be a midterm, and if you successfully meet your milestones and your mentor gives you a after an additional $2,250 after the midterm. And then if you successfully complete the final evaluation by your mentor, and which will be in late August, I believe, then you'll receive the final $2,750 US for a total of $5,500. I'll leave questions for later when we're doing the panel, and then also during the reception, always feel free to come up to Chris, Mary, or I and talk to us directly if you don't want to talk in front of everybody in the panel. But I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to my colleague, Mary Radhow, and she's going to give you some cool stats and talk a little bit more about our 10 Things program.
Next slide. Okay, so first before I begin, thank you all so much for the warm reception. We are so honored to be here. The dancers, the flowers, everything, it's really heartwarming, so thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 10 Things campaign. Of course, this is our 10th year of Google Summer Codes. We thought it appropriate to do 10 great things that were different from the last years. The first thing we're doing, as Stephanie just mentioned, is raising the stipend by 10%, so more money is always good. The second thing is we are accepting 10% more students than we ever have in the past, and that will mean that we're accepting about 1,300, maybe a little bit more this year. So it's a good year to get involved if you haven't yet. We'll also be accepting 10 more mentoring organizations than before. And part of this 10 Things campaign is visiting countries that have had high participation in Google Summer Code, and that of course includes Sri Lanka. The last 6 months we've been on a whirlwind tour. We've been to Romania, Poland, Canada, Australia, Sri Lanka. And Stephanie and another colleague of ours is about to make a Southeast Asian tour to Cambodia, Singapore. So we've been busy, but we're really honored to be here, and obviously Sri Lanka being such a big participant, it's really special for us. Another thing that we're doing is we're going to be highlighting 10 great students or organizations that have been a part of Google Summer Code. We'll be doing this on our blog post and also at conferences worldwide, so at FOSDEM and OSCON in Portland. We'll be asking students to come participate, or organizations to come and tell a little bit about their work and how they do what they do. Next slide. And here's the timeline. If you really break this down for you, it is a little bit complicated. We don't want you to have to memorize all of these dates now. You can always go to our program site and get all the up-to-date information. But because the process starts pretty soon, we can talk about it now. Starting in February, we'll be looking to accept applications for the actual open source projects. At the end of February, we will post the projects and organizations that we have chosen. After that, the student application period will begin. So that's your time to really take a look at what the organizations do, what their ideas list is, what kind of projects they're interested in, and that's your time to apply. Like Stephanie said, it's quality, not quantity. So really take the time to put some effort and work into your application to make all the difference. We'll announce all the accepted students on the program site, and then midday, the coding begins, and that's the time when we hear that the school starts for you. So we know you'll be very busy during that time. That's amazing. We do have a midterm evaluation. This is the time when you and your mentor will talk about you have met the goals that were outlined for you, how you're doing, and then you'll also have a final evaluation. And this is your time to not only be evaluated by your mentor, but also evaluate your mentor and say has he or she been helpful. And it's a good way for us to check, see how the program is doing and how the mentor is doing. And if I'm going over this too fast or if I'm missing something, please feel free to come up to us after the event, and I'm happy to go through any of the dates, deadlines, or statistics. course, GSoc stats over the years, we've had over 7,500 successful student participants in 97 countries. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's about an 85% rate of success for students. So it's pretty good. I mean, we get some really great students. A staggering 50 million lines of code in computers, 7,000 mentors from over 100 countries, 440 open source projects, and over 2,000 universities. So our small little program has made a huge impact on life. And then, of course, Sri Lanka. I mean, these statistics have been talked about throughout the entire day today, but yes, give yourself a hand. The University of Moratuwa has had the most students participate at any university all over the world by double. So the next university, number 2 university, is in Romania, I believe, and it had a little under 100, or a little over 100 students. So you guys did well, which is wonderful. Started out slow in 2005. Hey, great that you even have 4 students, which is such a small program, and it's slowly gone up and up and up. And last year, 54 students is just incredible. The next university down from that was, I think, about 25 or 26. So again, you're doing such a great job, and it's such a pleasure to see that number go up and up. And there have been 265 total Sri Lankan students since the program's inception. The second university in Sri Lanka with the highest amount of participants was University of Moratuwa. Next slide. We're missing one. Okay, so here's the number of mentors by year from Sri Lanka. 2005, we don't have records from there, so that's not a 0, but it's just unapplicable. Again, it's been going up and down throughout the years. We'd love to see more mentors from Sri Lanka. So if you've been a student and you have any interest in mentoring a new summer code student, now is the time. We'd love to see that number go up and up. And we've had 122 total mentors since the program inception. Some useful links. I hope that you all memorize these right now. No, I'm kidding. Please don't memorize these. We have a list that we printed out that you can take home with you or refer back. But just as a helpful tip, Melange is our program site. If you have any questions about how this program runs, when the dates are, when open source programming is, take a look at Melange, google.-melange.com. You can also learn a lot about the program and a lot about Google Summer Code and our other sister programs by joining our discussion list. It gets quite a bit of traffic, so you can go on and on with some shoes, but it's a really great way to learn more. If you need to dig down and learn a little bit more about the student manual, this is something that was written by students for students, so it's a good way to learn even more. We highly recommend you read our wonderful blog. We are always looking for guest posts, so if you'd like to be a celebrity and post about your Google Summer of Code experience, please let us know and we'll get you on there. And then we have a student manual as well for the launch for the actual site that you can read on. So, next slide. That's it. So thank you again so much. I'm going to turn it back to Stephanie, but please feel free to come up if you have any questions. Thank you.
How many of you have heard about Google Code? Oh, wow, that's actually a lot more than I expected. That's great. Okay, cool. So Google. Next slide. Oh, thank you. Not working. So Google Coded is our contest for 13 to 17-year-old pre-university students. So basically, before you started on GSoc, this would be the program to get involved. It's a great kind of practice run for GSoc. We've had a lot of students already over the last 4 years that have gone on to become GSoc students. This is a great way to get yourself involved in the community. And again, it's an introduction, just like GSoc is. It's an introduction to open source source software development. We have open source organizations who create tasks for students to work on. And so it's not one large coding project like Google Summer Code is. It's small kind of mini tasks that generally are going to take around 3 to 6 hours to complete, depending on the actual task, and depending on your comfort level with the code, whether it's C++, Python, HTML, JavaScript, etc. And then in the contest, it's a 7-week contest. It just concluded at the first week of January 6th, so the first week of January. It started in November. And we actually just announced our grand prize winners of the contest this Monday on our blog. So you can actually go to the Google Open Source blog today and see the list of winners and countries that they are from. The students earn certificates when they complete one task. When they complete 3 tasks, they get a Google coded t-shirt. And then the grand prize trip is a trip for students to Google Mountain View, California campus for themselves and parents. And that happens in April. And I have to say that's one of my favorite parts of my job. It's pretty cool to actually meet these young students and to see how excited they are about open source software. And, excited to meet each other, with these other kids from across the world with the same interests that they do. Next slide. And so unlike Google Summer Code, Google Coded is not just about coding. Open source development is about so much more than just coding. So we wanted to give students a way where they could feel comfortable, being in a contest and not feel that they had to code, or maybe they weren't quite comfortable with their skill level coding yet. So we have documentation tasks, training, so maybe, making a YouTube video explaining a certain aspect of the software, outreach, research, like outreach would be holding a meetup for other students in your area to tell them about the software. And quality assurance, so fixing bugs, finding bugs, and then user interface tests. Next slide. So again, the goals of GC are very similar to those of Google Summer Code. It's applying those skills we've been learning in the classroom and applying them to a real software project. This year we had, I think, 3 or 4 of our students who were only 14 years old. So it's pretty cool to be a 14-year-old student and to have your code, integrated into this software project that millions of people are going to be using. That's a pretty big ego booster. And that's probably one of the things that I think is the most important about the program is that it's building students' confidence. It's making them realize that they do have the ability to do this, and that they're also learning. Each of these tasks is assigned a mentor. So if students have questions when they're trying to complete the task, the mentor's there to guide them. So it really is helpful for the students to have this one-on-one contact with their mentors. And again, also, it's to show students that there are tons of different types of projects available to work on in open source. This year we had Sahana in Google Coded. We also had KDE, Wikimedia, we Copyleft Games Group, which is a group of 3 or 4 different gaming organizations. So really just to show that there's a diverse group of open source organizations that students can work with. Last slide, please. So these are the pictures. This is something I like to end the talk with every time. These are just pictures of the students from last year's grand prize trip. In front of the Golden Gate Bridge, in front of the self-driving car there, and then on the Google's campus in front of all the Android statues with their parents. They look pretty happy, right? So my request for all of you, I know most of you are not 13, 17 anymore, but if you have siblings or people who are teachers, please tell them about this program. We would love to have more Sri Lankans participation. Over the last 4 years of the contest, we've had 4 students participate from Sri Lanka. And we know you obviously know how to code, so we know that the students are more than prepared to be able to do this contest. I just don't think that the word has quite gotten out about it yet, so we need all of your help to help other students find out about it. We actually did have 1 student who participated, and I think he's here. Are you here tonight? Raise your hand. Invited him. I'm not sure if he was able to make it. But he was from the Congo area, I believe. But again, we would love to see 20, 30, 40 students participate next year in Sri Lanka. That would be even more awesome. So again, we need your help. We do have GCI stickers I'm not sure if they're handing out at the table, but we will have a reception, so you can pick up some of those and give them to the 13 to 17-year-olds in your life, or to the teachers that you think would like to tell their students about it. The program runs from November to January. We will be running it again this year, so just stay tuned to our Google Open Source blog. The website is the same as Google Summer Code, so google-melange.com. It's a landing page for Google Summer Code and Google Coda, so you can go there and go to either one. So you only have to know one website. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Abhamaya and Mr. Taylor, for the informative session. And we hope that a lot of Sri Lankans will find success in the GSoc 2040 as well as Google 40 in the future. Dr. Sanjeev Veeravarman is currently the chairman and CEO of WSO2, the company he founded in 2005 to build an entirely different breed of middleware. Prior to that, he spent nearly 8 years at IBM Research, where he led the development of web services middleware platform. He has been a long-time contributor to Apache and has been instrumental in forming Lanka Software Foundation in 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Sanjeev Veeravarman on the 5 years of
Alright, thank you. Good evening. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit of background about myself and a little bit of a story, and then I'll stop. So I've been involved in open source stuff for a long time. I'm not as young as I look. I'm 27. So I was a grad student in 1989, and I used to write software for various things. And those days there was no way to distribute software. The only way you could distribute software was like putting software on email and sending it by postal mail to somebody else. It's slightly different from using hardware and having it show up on the machine a couple of seconds later, and session it doesn't show up in a couple of seconds. So then, we used to share source code because that's when BSD, the software distribution, which is the foundation of Unix, the most popular Unix system that was used in academia, was created and distributed by tape like that. And then over time, of course, the internet became more accessible, and everybody was able to contribute to various pieces of software. The Apache Foundation was one of the early foundations that were formed to formalize getting people from all over the world to be part of building a piece of software. And they had to, the people who founded Apache had to innovate how that process would work, how people collaborate, how we code, make decisions in different environments, and all kinds of stuff. In fact, people who work at Apache, so I contributed to Apache, I worked Apache for a long time, and there are people that you work with that you've never met, you never will meet, but you know them really well, electronic personality. So I started contributing to Apache in 1998. I had some source code that was related to a project called Lotus XSL, which became Xena. And at that time, I didn't know, I never heard of CBS. And Scott Bogue, who was an Apache contributor at the time, it was an awesome idea. And he took my code in, he said, well, if you want, we can make you a committer and do this CBS stuff and so forth. And it's very complicated and painful because you're tunneling in all kinds of stuff because the network won't let you get out. So forth. So I can't bother, just take the code chart in, I don't care. So that was my first contribution. So then, 2 years later, I was involved in defining the SOAP spec and wrote this thing called Apache SOAP. And it's the first time I kind of actively got involved in Apache. And then I convinced IBM to name that Apache. And then I really got involved. And of course, things have developed a lot more. The networks have opened up a lot more. Bandwidth is better. You can do a lot more stuff by using that 2 year period. And so I've been an active contributor since about 1999, 2000 Apache. And the thing I want to get out of my little talk here is, if you really want to be successful in open source, GSoc is not the end game. GSoc, Kristen mentioned this, but I don't believe Larry Page or any of these guys or Chris or anyone who came up with this concept. The idea was not saying, well, let me have these guys not do flipping burgers or whatever it is, summer in a sense, but have them write code and then forget about it. But rather, let that be an introduction to the power and the enabling capabilities, and I don't want to say beauty because it sounds weird, but power and the enabling capabilities of open source development. And I'm telling you how it impacted me. So I started, so after, during the Apache time, so I wrote a whole bunch of stuff, and Apache Soap became very popular. It was the only open source implementation. It was the first implementation of Soap at all. So all kinds of companies started using it. And then I wrote something called DSF, Basic Distributed Framework, which is very useful to create Java, so we can use that also. It was around the Java standard and so forth. And the most self-satisfying thing as an engineer is when random people write and say, damn, the code works, it's very cool. Of course, it's random people write and tell you the code sucks, it doesn't work, it's broken, and so forth, right? So hopefully the balance is correct. You get 1 to 10 ratio, you're happy. It's 10 to 1, you should be happy. But so it's a really satisfying feeling when people actually tell you, oh, the stuff you wrote is actually being used to do something, and it's having an impact, and that you are the one who wrote the thing. That's something that you cannot, in a normal company environment. I work for IBM. The stuff I've written as a administrator, I've never spoken to a single customer who uses that stuff, and they don't know I wrote code. Like, they don't know to credit me or anything. In open source, when you look at the code and see you wrote it, those days we used to put author tags into the source code. Apache discontinued that because that was anti-community kind of thing. Because people wouldn't, if there's an author statement in a class, other people hesitated to edit that class because like, what is that guy's class? I don't want to look at that. Or restructure it and that and so forth. So no longer encouraging author tags in classes, but still you can find out about the code. So that was one important part. But the more important part is I met all these amazing people through that process. Right? So I got to know all the people in Apache, and Apache is a founding organization in the world of open source. And as a result, a lot of the people who define open source behavior, wrote the books on open source, defined how things work, were involved in Apache. Apache is not the only one, there are other places, and so forth. But it was a major part. And then I came back to Sri Lanka in 2001. So when I came back, what I found was everybody here was preaching saying there was a Linux music group and a lot of the Linux before I came back in. But that was all about don't use Windows, use Linux. But it wasn't about, create Linux. So NSF was founded, Microsoft Foundation was founded saying, well, this is nonsense. It doesn't matter that you use Windows or Linux. You either bring a bill from Redmond versus it doesn't matter. If you're not part of the creating part, it's kind of useless. You are just solving something else's software. And Richard Solomon, who also came here from years ago, remember, he was a very radical guy. He called it software colonialism. So if you don't contribute to software creation, you are just a colony in the world of software. So that's why NSF was formed. Like, hey, we should stop this. We should get people to contribute to stuff. And the funny thing was, in 2002, when NSF was formed, there was not a single committer. There was a single committer from Sri Lanka. There was no other committer from India using Apache. Right? Not one committer from India Apache at the time. And all the committers from the US, UK, and maybe 5 European countries. And nobody from Asia was writing. It's not that they were not writing, but they were not part of the community. They were defining future platforms. And then the NSF was formed to really change that, trying to get people to participate. So we got some grants here and there, the Access 2 project, and a bunch of other things. There's a batch of Sandesh, there's a Kamala, batch of Neeti. All of these were Sri Lankan names because they were formed here. Actually, it was one of the big parts of getting those projects going. And then I was invited to join the OSI board, the Open Source Initiative Board, 2004 or something like that. And I was on board for a couple of years, and that's when I met first met Chris. Chris was on the board at the same time, and I had actually met him. I think it was just email, one board meeting or something. And then so we were, so LSF and Intel were working together to encourage open source development. So I actually wrote to Chris and we sent him a proposal asking for a donation for us to run conferences in Sri Lanka promoting open source. So we got a donation of $25,000 from Google in 2005. And we ran about 20 events with that money. And we also collected money from local companies. The biggest event was called Fossil Cell, Free and Open Source Software Sri Lanka Fossil. We ran that for 3 years, and we collected money here and there. And that was actually a huge part of raising awareness in Sri Lanka about open source technology creation as well as usage. Everything about faucet, conferences we ran, there's faucet on wheels, we ran from Candy to Jaffna, there was a thing that went into Candy and then stopped along the way, all the way up to Jaffna in 2007, 8, something like that. And then we ran all these faucet, CXO conferences, all kinds of things to promote awareness of open source, that open source is not some threat. And it's always we have open source, but again, the Linux guys who don't like the word open source, it's like free software. Because they don't like the free software, it has so FOSS is the word we think, free and open source software. And so that in fact, to be honest, the open source popularity in Sri Lanka is hugely to be credited to that $20,000 from Google. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, a long time. Then GSoc started in 2005, and at that time, I can't remember how people got started, but must have been some patch projects. And then people started really understanding that this open source stuff, you could actually contribute, you could have something to get to. And it's great that all these people have participated, but my bottom line is if you have participated and stopped participating after that, that's no good. Right? If you stop participating, you gotta come back and do something. Because that's not what this is about. Open source is a long-time thing. You know, everything in life is a long-term thing. If you want to be successful, you can't do something for a short time and give it up and get on with something else. You gotta keep on doing it for a long time. Right? So I've been doing open source stuff for 25 years now. But quite a long time, right? And I'm still an active contributor in Apache projects. I'm on various mailing lists. I don't write code anymore, but I still want to write code anymore. But I still participate in discussions. I write boards. I annoy people, but it's okay. It's part of the process of being an open source person. And so one of the things you learn about open source is not just how you write your code, because if your code is no good, you will get accepted, but also how to communicate with people, how to hold an argument, how to win an argument, how to lose an argument, and how to have a technical debate, and how to be able to debate something that you created without being passionate about it the wrong way. Sometimes you don't know what you want. So there's a lot more to open source than about the code. It's a lot about the community, it's about being part of the community, being able to work with other people and challenge them and so forth. And one other example I'll give you, there was another project that we started in Apache called Synapse. And Apache Synapse had an intern, had somebody from Sri Lanka working on it. It was an intern, I can't remember which city was from, the person was from Sri Lanka. And this guy was having a big argument with somebody else called Phil Slides on the mailing list. Phil Slides was just some random guy on the mailing list. And I didn't know who this Phil Slides guy was either. I knew he was an Apache member, a long time Apache guy. And then I met him like several years later when WC was formed, and then we went to American Express as a potential customer. And Phil Slides was CTO of American Express Travel. And here he was having some technical debate with some, I don't know, 22-year-old kid from Sri Lanka. That's another beauty of open source, that everybody's equal. You don't know the people, you don't know who they are, you don't know what color they are, you don't know, often you don't know what gender they are. Oh, I have another fun story for them. There was an access to a community board in I can't remember, somebody from Brazil, right? And he was great, he was contributing all kinds of stuff, we voted him in, and then we sent him a mail saying, I'm going to send a mail saying, hey, thank you for your contributions, we voted you in as a committer. Now you need to sign this license agreement, so we put you in. Then he sends me a mail privately, he says, damn, I have something to tell you, actually that's not my name, right? And that's his name spelled backwards, because he wanted to contribute to open source anonymously, and he wanted to know who he was. So he spelled his name backwards, and he was contributing to this project. And of course, legally you can't send a name backwards, right? So it's quite a way to send a name. So eventually we had to go back and report this problem, and he had to say valid, but valid email address, and only know what the guy's email address is. So that's the kind of things that open source gives you. So it's not about a short-term effort. It's not about summer. It's about summer is planting a seed for a long-term effort. And if you really take it and run with it, you have no idea what it can take you, who it can be, and what kind of opportunities it will give. And for me got to know all these people in the industry. That has had a significant impact on my own career in every possible way. It fundamentally why WSO was able to be formed. I've said this before, the work that the students at Moratuwa did was the sort of cornerstone for WSO being formed. And that would have happened if not for open source. Right? And so there's all kinds of implications of that. And the people that I've met through open source, Chris to Barry Augustine, who's Chris used to work for, founder of ANS and Source Code, is one of the founders of the open source movement. Kim O'Reilly, Eric, his last name, all these people, right, fantastic people, completely through open source. And that's the key thing is it wasn't through a summer of open source. It was through essentially a lifetime of open source in the technical career being involved. So that's my message to you. So if you have participated in GSoc, great. As was said in the proposals, personally I have no interest in quantity. We cannot win a quantity game against India under any condition. Because we just have, unless everybody appropriates a little bit more than we do now. So we are not in the world trying to win a quantity game, right? We are trying to win a quality game. Open source's advantage is that if you go to any open source project, there are maybe 5, at most 10 people who are driving that project. Typically, but less than that. Right? That was the fundamental argument I made when the research was formed, saying, because everybody asked the question saying, how can you compete in this stuff? Because India has 5,000 more programmers. While Sri Lanka only has like 30,000 software programmers, period. Right? So it's a very small number compared to India. So you can't. So the answer is, well, with open source it doesn't matter. You don't have 100 people writing an open source project in Germany. There are hundreds of people involved, but they do small things. Oh, it's always very, very small. So if you have 500 people, you can form that code, and that's really the opportunity. So I'm going to finish with the Steve Jobs quote. I can't remember exactly, but his quote was basically, you can't connect dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you don't know when you do something this summer, you might do a summer of code project, you might meet some guy who you don't know who it is. Maybe it's a Phil Stites, maybe it's someone who's already CEO of something, American corporation or some Canadian corporation or Indian company, whatever. Or it might be some 20-year-old kid you meet. In 20 years might become Larry Page. You don't know. Right? And that's the beauty of it. But all those people you meet is a network. It's all people that you build up as a network that you can build on in the future. So this is an amazing opportunity. I hope you take it and use it the proper way. After you take it and walk away with it, take it, do it, and stay on with it, and make a lifetime of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Viruvarana, for sharing your opinion and experience about free and open source software. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for GSoc to come to the stage. This invitation goes to Dishan Dahanayake, Ihan Karunaratna, Himesh D. Silva, and Sukita Jayatiraga to come on stage and share your GSoc experience with all of us.
So the second project was I did in Apache Software Foundation, and they are under the Apache Manifold CL project. That was kind of like a middleware where it can connect to enterprise level document repositories like documentum servers, so Dropbox servers, and print their documents and deliver them to an internal service engine for indexing. So there I had to write an email connector to connect to the email servers and print the emails to send to internal search engines. So that's hardest part is to embark on the journey. The rest of the voyage will be very smooth and will flow with the tide. So make some effort and please try to get on the boat, and it will do marvels for your life. In my personal opinion, the best thing you will get is the self-confidence and the people. After you have done the GSoc project, you won't be hesitate to take on any project or any technology and anything. And also you will know very different people from a different background. So that's it, and my request for all the newcomers is please go through the organization and please apply for at least 2 or 3 companies. And thank you very much Google for what you are doing, for all the thousands and hundreds and thousands of students all over the world, and also the open source organization. And finally my staff and seniors for all the help they have given me to become who am I today. And thank you all. Happy GSoc.
Good evening everybody. I am from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, University of Moratuwa. I participated in GSoc 2012. My project, my mentor was from Czech Republic. And telling more about my project, I engaged with local community. Talking about mobile, they are providing an XML format which can use to document anything. Also, they are providing some XSS style sheets which can create different types of document formats by passing through a XSLT processing. So they can create PDF, HTML, EPUB, etc. Most importantly, there are some format styles like they are very user friendly. Like this has features like navigation panel, search options. This was implemented by Kasun Gajasinghe. He is a senior student in my department. But there was a question mark. Effective to use this web helping mobile phones because there is a limited screen size. So to address this problem, I created Loco Mobile. In my project initially, I was thinking about creating an Android application, only an Android application. But with the initial discussion with my mentor, he introduced me the phone gap, which can be used to create mobile applications for many types, like Android, BlackBerry, iOS, etc. So this is some screenshots of my application. So it has some key features like table content, searching, zooming options, menus. This is my first experience in open source search, and through my project I gained a lot of experience, lot of professional experience, and also I had to learn a lot of new things. Also had hard times, but at the end of the day, it's enabled to increase my potential. Finally, I am thankful to Google who are providing this type of very comprehensive student libraries.
I'm Yeshi, and I was a Google Summer Code student in 2013, and my project was with the Wikimedia Foundation. The Wikimedia Foundation runs a number of projects. The most famous being perhaps Wikipedia, which we all use. To tell you a bit of background information about my project, the software which is used to power Wikipedia and many other wikis is MediaWiki. And one method in which MediaWiki can be extended is by writing extensions to it. So So one such powerful web extension is known as semantic media wiki, which allows you to create structured content on your wiki, which means that you can store data and query them within the wiki's pages. So my work was with the spin-off extension to SMW called Semantic Forms, which basically allows you to create forms to add data, edit wiki pages, and also query them. Some of you might know, the Semantic Forms extension uses MediaWiki templates to create structured content, but wiki pages contain not only templates but also page sections. So my project was to include section handling capabilities with Semantic Forms extensions, and now the Semantic Forms and page schemas extension allows you to define any sections. But as many of the speakers before me said, GSoc is not just about coding, it's so much more. On one hand, I got to make worldwide contribution by adding a new feature to a project to be potentially used by hundreds of people, because SMW and semantic forms are among the most widely used MediaWiki extensions. And on the other hand, I also got to work with experienced developers and have them review my code, which drastically enabled me to hone my coding capabilities as well. Furthermore, I also got to see the inner workings and the processes used by a large open source organization, and it also helped me earn the recognition as a successful GSocker, so that I can come here and talk to you today. And more than that, I was also able to gather a few tasks from my GSoc project and put it up for Google coding and mentor one task successfully. Subsequent to my GSoc project, I also got a really cool opportunity to travel to Berlin, Germany to attend SMW Con. There I got to present what I did in my project to potential users, other developers, and also interact with the people that I had been working with during my project, which was really exciting. I got to meet my mentor in person. Also, it gave me the opportunity to see how the software was really being used in so many different domains, from neurobiology to social networking, things that I had never anticipated that the software was being used for. Finally, to conclude my talk, I'd like to say that GSoc was a really fun and rewarding experience for me. And I would just like to say thank you, GSoc, and I wish you all success for many more decades to come.
Hi everybody, I'm Sukita Jayatagata. I graduated last year from University of Moratuwa, currently working at Delegates technology. So I participated in Google Summer of Code in the years 2011 and 2012. Both years I worked for the organization Delegates. Some of you might know Delegates is a 3D modeling software. It's based on code basis, basically a C++ and Python. So, talking about my project, it was about this XML specification, schema specification called Lanka, which defines the specification for similar software like those 3D modeling and animation softwares to exchange data between them. So basically, whole animation model or anything like that can be converted from the environment which is built on an XML document using this specification. So then I had the support for the basic stuff, for the complicated stuff like animations, the skeleton models, armature stuff, the support So the way I got into it was actually interesting for me. My brother was a full-time, older brother, was a full-time GSoc also for 2009 and 2010. And after I came to university, he always told me when the GSoc starts, to do GSoc. Why aren't you doing GSoc? What are you doing with your life? You should do this kind of thing. And it will help you. I mean, he was my motivation to stop that, stop my brother from bothering me, basically. So from level 2 I started. In my second year also I gave basic attempts to participate in GSoc as well. But then there's this wonderful opportunity in our university, in our department, for 3 projects, programming project. We get to choose an open source organization and project for them. And I saw the opportunity there. Actually, they give us list of kind of list that we can choose organizations. So I saw this opportunity and thought that maybe not even myself to this. And I straight away went to the lanka site hosted by GSoc and went to the list what really interests me. I was already interested in game 3D software, those sort of things. I knew C++, so immediately then stood apart from the rest. So I did that. I contacted them through IRC, the Delegates medias, and that laid the foundation for me to do my GSoc as well. So I would like to remember my mentors who helped me during my programming project as well. He just again his name is clear in the query, so that's just again. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I won't be exaggerating if I say that it was the best thing I did. It helped immensely with my career. And it's a wonderful community. Open source development is a great thing. If you get into that, summer of this is not only a summer of cold. You work with the student, you see it's a summer of love as well. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing. So my brothers did 2 GSocs and I did 2 GSocs, and my brother is also here in the audience. He will also run GSoc. So my family also usually 5 GSocs. It's kind of a family tradition actually. Let's say that it's a University of Moratuwa tradition as well, a Sri Lankan tradition as well. So let's keep up the good work. Let's keep working GSoc.
Just introduce myself because the next part of the GSoc event today is actually the panel discussion. I think probably one of the most important parts of today's session. My name is Jagger. I work as the Sri Lanka Government Consultant, and it's such a privilege that we got team members from our GSoc team members here today to travel halfway across the world to get here. A little bit jet lag, but we are still alive, which is a good thing. And also great to see a lot of familiar faces. I'm really proud to be here because I remember not so long ago sitting as one of you in this auditorium getting for the first time getting into University of Moratuwa. So I'd like to invite Dr. Sanjeev So I think I'll just need to get my mic. So I think guys, the most important part of this particular part is that you will never get this chance to ask any questions you have about the program or what it is like to be from Google side to run this program. So I would strongly advise you guys to ask questions, and just to incentivize that a little bit more, we got some gifts that's going to make your wildest dreams come true. That's a book and a pen. GSoc book and a pen. You can write all your dreams, wildest dreams on it, and come true. To start off, I believe all the mics are working, everything is right. I'll get myself wired and I'll sit there. But in the meantime, Chris, the first question is always to you. It's great to see this past 10 years and also since 2005 in Sri Lanka. I mean, how do you see this growing and what are the things that Sri Lanka should be careful about? I mean, we spoke about all the good things, but what are the things we should avoid? What are the things we should really make sure that we do consistently well over the next 1 or 2 years? Obviously, we don't want to lose this to be number one. We want to be number one. So, what are your advice and thoughts on that?
So my first piece of advice is just join that family with the brothers. It's funny because it seems like the difference for Sri Lanka and Moratuwa has been about how the seniors sort of take the juniors to level 4, take on level 3, and push them a little bit, bring them into the community development that GSoc really represents. So I would say keep up that social pressure, and if it goes into the families, that's very handy, especially for the Google Coding program. So I would say just keep doing what you're doing, don't let it stop. And of the 264 people in Sri Lanka, 209 people are here. There's these other universities, so you can extend your dominance to the other universities, and just keep them excited to bring them into the fold as well.
Nice, Chris. So I promised the team who organized that between every question, every answer, I'm going to ask this. Do we have any questions? Because I know that we are a little bit shy around asking questions, but do we have any questions? Yes, over there. You're going to get that person.
Yeah. Okay. So is Google spying on us? I'm just kidding. So basically, Sanjeev talked about this trend of people doing the Google Summer of Code and then stopping open source development. So I've been a student for 3 years and a mentor for 2 years with 3 different organizations. And does Google have any of the stats to see how many students do the Google Summer of Code and how many just continue to contribute to the open source project? Is there any kind of stats that's been done in that aspect?
Sorry, so the question was if the stats show students becoming mentors? Is that?
No. They contribute to the open source projects in the long term.
Oh, okay. We have lots of stats, we have lots of numbers. We do surveys. We're not huge fans of surveys. Chris can talk about that. But we do try to put out surveys. We did a survey, I think last year, Rosemary, that we asked a bunch of questions and asked that question: are they continue to contribute? And the vast majority didn't. Now, of course, we only had the emails that we had were basically for students who participated in the last 2 years. So we don't have anything going back 8 or 9 years. Unfortunately, people change their emails, So they changed their email from 2006, which most people generally don't really have contact information. So unfortunately, some of those types of stats, especially the early students, it's almost impossible for us to get that, except for the people who we know. We see a lot of these people as mentors at the mentor summit every year that were students back in 2005, 2006. And so we know a bunch of them from past years so on. But we do find that quite a few of them go on to become mentors, which actually was a very interesting statistic for us.
graduate will return to the company. So that's sort of hard to measure. But the gut number is always going to be very, just stick around period forever. But it's the long-term number that actually play out.
Again, I promised this in between everything. There's another question?
I want to just, I think I should ask this. I think how GSoc helped to Google, I mean, what's the benefit of organizing GSoc for the Google?
His question was how would GSoc helping Google? Why is Google doing this?
I think you answer that because most of the students are spend their summer time like leisure. So I just want to know that what's the benefit for Google organizing GSoc? I mean like.
We get that question quite a bit. It's, what are you guys getting out of this? Are you hiring people? Are you making money? And we get that question a lot. Why would you do something just for their greater good? And I think Chris spoke to it earlier about why open source software is important and why contributing is really important. You can speak best to that, but it's really an altruistic way for us to contribute to open source software and help students and get students involved. There's really no underlying reason.
Well, no, so there is, though. So if you look at the structure of the internet and Google's place on the internet, the internet exists basically as this collection of protocols and standards that are all instantiated of open source software. And if any core part of the internet becomes too much based on proprietary software, you'll get a stagnation of innovation, and you'll find people trying to create themselves as gatekeepers to parts of the internet. Right? Now, Google thrives on an internet that is free, and we used to say, and all these things, but what we're really saying is that as long as we can crawl the internet, and as long as we can help people find things on the internet, Google will do fine. So to keep that true, we really need open source to be a very, very strong resource for the creation of that internet, and a very strong resource for software development shops in general, right? So, and specifically for Google, so long as open source is strong, we still have that resource to draw upon. We use a ton of open source software up and down our software stack. So it's very much in our interest for open source to persist. Now, if you go back 10 years, when most of you were very open source wasn't growing very fast. People very rare. To meet new people in open source was a very rare thing. I would go to these conferences, I would see the same people. It wasn't boring or dull. It's just, we're going to get older, we're going to have children, our brains will be fried by parenthood, and we need new people to work on open source software, to take it in the directions that we need to go. And so, for me, when Larry said new people coding over the summer, I said, I can bring new people into open source, and that would be the measure. And so, the summer of code became that for me, first and foremost, a way of getting new people into open source, and into free software. So, that. Now, if you look at it from the perspective of recruiting, it's a fine program, but there's probably better ways of spending $1 million, but it's okay. If you look at it as a way of recruiting Google's code base, I can give you a number of the amount of code that is written in this summer of code that makes its way into Google's code base in a number of years, right? And in that, it's actually it's a fantastically efficient way of writing software. So, yeah. So any one of these things I can justify the program on. But for me, it's about bringing new people into open source software and in the long run.
Thank you. So I think it's very important to ask a question from Sanjeev, because Sanjeev is sitting in the corner. We'll just take this question and
Yeah, this question is for Sanjeev, so I think that's not a problem. What we've seen basically, success of Sri Lanka at GSoc is mainly due to basically the University of Moratuwa, right? We get so many students from the University of Moratuwa each year, but we have a lot of other great universities as well. And I know I can only say this because I am from the University of Moratuwa as well, but in the IT industry, we working with a lot of good students from other universities as well who could definitely have participated in some of code. Maybe they didn't get the information or maybe they weren't encouraged enough. But what I wanted to ask is, what do you feel that University of Moratuwa does that makes this university so special, and how do you think that University of Moratuwa actually gets so many students into Google Summer of Code? What are the lessons that other universities could learn from this?
Okay. So there are a couple of things. The first is university here, the staff, especially, and also students, and the overall mindset is very open to new ideas and new things and trying new things. I interacted with several other universities, not as much as in Moratuwa, but my personal experience has been that Moratuwa tends to be the most open towards doing something different or doing something differently or trying something so not less than proven or whatever than other universities. And that's a very big part of why it has been so popular. And I think we should, and I know everybody's mentioned my name on the fact, but to be honest, I was involved in the early stage to help encourage people, but I haven't been involved at all in the last 5 years, I would say. And it's the current university, the staff promoted a lot, the students promoted a lot, the seniors promoted the junior students, and so forth. And it's been very sort of self-growing from that point of view. The other thing, other factor, put it bluntly, comes to the point the first person who gave a talk said, he said he did it because he realized his other guy was not that exceptional. He was a normal guy like him. Right? And the reality in Sri Lanka, unfortunately, is Moratuwa is viewed a little bit exceptional, which is, in my opinion, unfair completely because there are any different people. And as a result, a lot of people probably look at that and say, oh, Moratuwa students can do that, but you can't do it. And that's completely yes. I go to Moratuwa, I know people who've done really fantastic things that people go to Moratuwa. It's just one industry. I know you guys would like to hear that, but and therefore, they need to cross that barrier somehow to say it's just, it doesn't require you to be born with high IQ, it doesn't require you to be done really well in A-levels, it doesn't require any of that nonsense. It requires that you can do some consistent work and engage the community and demonstrate that you have some potential. Because as you listen to the way the program works, it's basically a potential that you invest in. And the potential is primarily engaging the community and looking at the ideas they've given and taking something on. And I've hired people from all kinds of universities in Sri Lanka, and I know anybody from any of those universities who study computer science are absolutely perfectly capable of doing those problems. It's got nothing to do with capability, it has nothing to do with just being not confident enough to say I can.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Well, yes, one at the very back. Let's take that first, and I'll ask you to talk to you. Person at the back first.
So my question is, let's say if someone is working for a open source organization for like more than 1 or 2 years, so can that person apply for a GSoc project? So if the answer is yes, is it fair for the others? So if the answer is no, why?
So let me, like I think it was a little faint, so let me repeat that question. I'm sorry if I do. You got it?
The question was, can a person who's been working for 1 or 2 years, I think, apply for GSoc? And if the answer is yes, it's fair, the answer is no, why? Right?
No. Let's say a person is working for open source organization, say Firefox or WordPress
you are already a contributor to an open source project, can you apply? And if so, is that fair? If not, why not?
So we get this question in a couple of different ways. We have people who are like, I'm not in university or in Sri Lanka. Why can't I take part? It's like, well, you're not in the university. You're a university. But we made a decision early on that if someone was at the university age and they were already involved in a project and they wanted to do a summer code project, it would be okay. And when we look at the number of people who are in that situation, you can say, but they're going to do it anyway. Aren't you wasting your money, time, that spot? The number of people doing it is actually slight enough that it's not that big of a deal. And the reality is that there are students who take part in for software who still need to get a job in summer in a bigger school or to pay for rent and stuff. So if we can help with that, that's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. So we decided early on that wasn't that big of a deal. And it's okay for us anyway. Because it is a student program. And we want to do it. So I hope that's satisfactory. It seems like your question was you were upset. So there you go. So it's no punishment for taking part.
Steve, you have a question? Until you ask, everyone who asked a question, they show you will be waiting.
So, I want to know as founders, where would you see some of the, say, the next couple of years, 5 to 10 years?
10 years, 5 years. Well, yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's an interesting question. You know, we get the question all the time, well, why don't you have more students? You know, why don't you accept 2,000 students? The real answer to that is not even necessarily about the money. It's more about there are 4 of us in our open source programs outreach. There's Mary, myself, Kat Allman, and Carol Smith. And Carol's actually the one that runs Google Summer Code. The rest of us help her with it. But it's a very complicated program. It's a lot of time involved. That's Carol's sole job, and then, like I said, the rest of us help her with it. So we would require other staff to grow all these other things. I'm doing Google Code, and Mary's got a bunch of other things on her plate. You know, hopefully at some point we'll be able to have maybe 1,500. I don't see it being a 3,000 person field. Maybe Chris feels differently, but obviously we want to get more contributors. I don't know. For me personally, it seems like it's not broken, so I don't know that we want to change it up too much as far as, you know, the way we run things. It's been running pretty much the same for 9 years now, and it seems to be going pretty well. So I don't see much difference except maybe just addition, you know, new organizations, new students. Hopefully more and more students becoming mentors. So we get that a lot. We have a ton of students.
For me, the mentoring load has always been the limiting factor of the program. You know, because we've had all kinds of organizations go to the program. There's an issue of mentor burnout, mentors taking out of the program in their own way. So, you know, 1,300 feels like we're pushing the envelope right there, but probably 5-10 years from now, you know, you'll see it grow somewhat, but not dramatically, right? So that's what I'd say about that. What you will see though is I think you'll see Google Code in expand dramatically. I'd expect that to be 10 times, well, that's not necessarily 5 years to start in terms of the number of students that can work in that, because that can scale more with the mentoring load. But again, I worry about mentoring more than anything else. Especially with younger developers who need a lot more guidance. One of the things we've seen with people is like, wow, I didn't know what I was going to get into by taking on 13-year-old kids. As a parent, I understand. So sometimes I think, well, is there another program like Summer Code that can scale and like GSoc that can scale like that? And so we're always sort of trying to figure that out. So we'll come up with something else.
And one of the things that is a little problematic for us is that Google Summer Code ends in, you know, late August, September, and then we start Google Coding a month and a half later. And the burnout of mentors is huge. And more so, like you said, for Google Coding, because they're doing a lot of hand-holding to get the students involved. The students, they're 13, they're scared, they need more help. Which it's great that we have the mentors. I mean, we cannot do the program we couldn't do either program without the mentors. I mean, they're really the ones that do all the hard work. So, especially so probably for Google Coding, so much so that this year we're actually flying the mentor from each organization to join in on the Google Grand Prize trip. So we're pretty excited about that, so that the students can actually meet their mentor. But I mean, really, it's about burnout with mentors more so than really anything else.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, some question.
Why is it this side?
Yeah, we need more questions from this side. Yeah,
What is that?
There we go.
For example, say a student was selected for a project is based on Java, and the student uses proprietary OS to build this module. And why don't you want to promote proprietary OSs and other students while promoting open source projects?
Would you mind can you just repeat that question one more time?
Let's say a student got selected for a project which is based on Java or some other language, and he uses proprietary software, open source software, not open source software, proprietary OS softwares to build this model. For example, like he works on Windows. So why don't you want to promote Linux or something like that to build that model?
If you don't mind, I'll answer it.
Yeah.
So the question is why is in GSoc in particular promoting use of Linux and other open source platforms to do the open source development?
Oh, okay, well, I mean, so I'd say for most of the projects, that's inherent. Because most of the projects are built on top of like C or LLVM. In fact, you see an LLVM on both projects for code. But I would say that proprietary software is open with us as developers, and so we don't get to have just open source, unfortunately. So we have to go some sort of piece with that. And so in summer code, what we require is that the participant software and projects that are involved be open source themselves. But if they run on top of, say, Windows or on top of Solaris or pick your favorite closed operating system, that's going to be okay, because to do otherwise would say that people who have those platforms have no access to open source software in the end. And that works against the goals of free software or open source software. So I don't know if that actually answers your question. Like I said, I haven't read that here.
We have an opinion from Dr. Sanjeev.
Oh, sure, yeah, sorry. My opinion is what matters is that you create something new, not what you used to create. So in fact, if you go to an open source conference today in the US, you will find that a significant majority.
I think he's here. Are you here tonight? Raise your hand if you're here. I invited him. I'm not sure if he was able to make it. But he was from the Colombo area, I believe. But again, we would love to see, 20, 30, 40 students participate next year in Sri Lanka. More than that would be even more awesome. So again, we need your help.
So the point is, it's relevant. So as long as you produce something and you put it out in the open source, whether you write that on Windows or Mac OS or Linux or HP UX, it doesn't really matter.
Any other questions? I see quite a lot of hands, yes.
But they're Google interns in Australia, and one will be an intern this summer at Mountain View. So it definitely looks good on your resume. So even for the younger students, there are opportunities. But obviously, even if you're not going to join Google, it's going to look good on your resume going to some other company if you're applying for Apple or whatever, right? Showing that you participated and had this experience, and this real life experience, will always look good on your resume.
It's been very powerful. I've heard from a number of companies that are like, oh yeah, we see that, we just bring it in for interviews. We don't pop it on the screen, It's a very nice example.
This is one more thing on that.
It's so nice, sorry. It's such a nice thing having a resume that we have like 3 years ago, and a student failed. They got, moved from the program. And the emails, they said, I still want to list that I was in the summer code. Or like, wait, you failed? They're like, yes, I'm going to list that I failed. It's like, you're going to put that on your resume? They're like, yeah, no, just getting accepted is a big deal. I'm like, that's great. But there you go.
So I just want to add that if you apply for grad school, every day the distinguishing factor matters. And being part of an open source project and having contributed and build something is a very good way of starting off.
I'd like to add that Google is recruiting and WSO too. Maybe, I'm just saying. Alright, so I think with that we'll just conclude our discussion. I want to thank the panelists and I kindly request Chris, Mary, etc. to stay on. Dr. Sanjay, I think we have small talks to handle. And I would like to just take this moment to thank everyone who came from the industry to join us today in the afternoon. Chris, would you mind handing over the clock to the head of the department? I believe the Vice Chancellor had to step out for an urgent meeting of head of the Department of Computer Science, Dr. Chandana Kamage. The clock they will bring it, and I think what they need to hand it over as a kind of souvenir from us today. I think it's better you come to this side because take this and come to that side. Photograph over. It's an example of how simple things are. And please remain there. We have another one which we want to hand over to the Vice Chancellor. May I ask someone, maybe Madam Visakha, would you like to accept it on behalf of the Vice Chancellor? Yeah. We have some gifts for the three of you. So I'd like to invite Dr. Sanjay, if you don't mind. I think it's really important. A small token of our appreciation for all the support and coming over always half possible. Jet lag, 35 hours of flying. And Dr. Sanjay, would you mind handing over the small token of our appreciation to Chris? And to Stephanie and may I ask? Yes, of course, your paparazzi moment. May I invite you to come down and take a seat? I think we have an entertainment item after this. Just before the word of thanks, we have a raffle, and we are going to again give away a gift which is going to make your wildest dreams come true. Actually, no, I can announce it. May I announce it? We just have a small gift for one lucky winner, and we will, after the entertainment items, we are going to have a raffle and we are going to give this away. So, stay tuned.
I would like to call upon Mr. Rohan Jayavira, Sri Lanka country consultant of Google, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. There are a couple of people I really must thank here. And I'm going to make it very short because I know it's almost been 2 hours and generally the attention time span is about 1.5 hours and counts. I want to obviously first and foremost thank the GSoc team taking those long flights, coming over here and then really make it special for us. And for Sri Lanka it's a really, really special moment. We really thank you guys for doing that. And we, as I said, now the pressure is on us to make sure that we perform even better next this year and the year after. Hopefully I can, with a lot of confidence, I can tell that we are going to deliver that. So that's really something. I want to thank Dr. Sanjeev, as I said, in our world is a rock star. And then I want to say thank you for coming over, accepting the invitation to make a speech, and also being a strong advocate for us. And I mean, that's an absolutely inspiration point. I think all of the undergraduates would really, really look for. And the rest of obviously the staff of University of Moratuwa, Vice Chancellor and heads of departments, especially the head of computer science, Dr. Chandra Gamage, for all of your help. I know we started this about 2-3 months back, and you have really been helpful in putting this event together, getting all the students and all that. So I really, really appreciate it. There are a couple of people I must thank, and I think I would not be doing justice. Rashmika, our Google student ambassador. Amazing job, guys. I want to say the best for us, but I also want to thank a few others. So I think I want to say special thanks to our Google business groups, Google Developer Group, the Google Mathemaker community, as well as our student ambassadors. I believe one of the biggest noise comes from that. Anywhere where there's the loudest noise, that's the student ambassadors, which is fantastic. I also want to thank one guy, Reza. I know I've done a lot of favors from you, but thank you so much for really coming through for us and putting this event together. Thank you for the likes, everything. I really, really appreciate that. So with that, I think most important part of this journey, actually not any of those people to say great action, is the people who are sitting in front of me right now, the students. And you guys have really, really set the tone for the rest of the country. You have really put Sri Lanka on the map inside Google. And I think that's exactly what we really need to do. Just make sure that we continue to do great work that gets recognized, that cannot go ignored. And that's the only way a small country like ours can continue to thrive and we achieve excellence. And I really want to thank everyone who applied, who got accepted. I really look forward to having more of you getting applying the years to come and supporting either as participants or as mentors. So really, really appreciate that. So thank you. Before I conclude, obviously the most important thing. Inside this box is the name of someone who's going to walk away with the next step. Right? Right. So I think I'm going to ask Chris to come up and pull a name out of this. I must tell you, Chris, this is absolutely clean. I only put my name 20 times. that, we will conclude today evening's proceedings. Refreshments are being served out